Hi, Tom from bkmnutrition.com, and in this video I'm going to talk about should you be decreasing your calories or cutting your calories from your diet, as in cutting out food from your diet, or should you be increasing exercise and activity as a first resort, or should you be doing both at the same time? Should you be eating less calories and increasing your output and exercise at the same time to try and maximize your fat loss? So I'm going to discuss that and a few other methods I use with my clients, methods I've used in the past, why they worked, why they didn't work, and also some tips for you at the end to do it yourself, to go out and initiate all the discussions and the information I'm going to talk about here. So let's talk about first decreasing food. Now, most people thankfully do now realize that you need to eat less food or have a calorie deficit at least in order to lose body fat. So and that's great, because if you're watching this now in 2022 when I'm filming this, it seems weird that around about 10-15 years ago people were convinced that you didn't need a calorie deficit in order to lose weight, and there was some magic woo-woos, and if you ate more fat you would certainly you would definitely drop more body fat, and all these other things that people would push onto us. And diet programs of the time didn't talk about calories at all. They talked about sins, and they still do talk about sins, and they talked about free foods that don't have an impact on your sin. You can eat as much as you want, which led to some interesting behavior by people. So thankfully now people do realise you do need a calorie deficit. The problem here is, and it's not so much of a problem, but it's something that maybe people have this sort of linear thinking, is as soon as they decide that they're going to lose some body fat, trying to get into shape or whatever they're doing, a lot of this happens in summer when people are trying to get ready for holidays, the first thing they do is they look at, right, well, how can I cut out the food that I'm eating? And the reason they do this is because they do, and unless, I'm not saying that people don't overeat, because people do overeat, and some people overeat a lot and they don't track their foods, so they don't know how much they're overeating. And actually, when I work with clients and they have got a fair bit of weight to lose, we look at what they're actually eating and we see, actually, you're overeating by like 1,000 calories a day. That's why that's happening. And a lot of people don't realise that things like drinks and sauces and creams and all those other things they add to their foods, they all have a calorie impact. And even the little snacks, people go, oh, that doesn't matter, just a little snack. Like things like pear drops or sweets or little packets of crisps or whatever, they have this massive calorie impact over the day. And people don't realise that until they start tracking stuff. And because they don't know this, as soon as people do start dieting, they start tracking their food, or sometimes they don't start tracking their food, and all they do is just cut out calories, because calories is what's got them into this situation in the first place. They've eaten too much, so they've got fat. So now they need to eat less, so they're not going to be as fat. The problem with this approach is that, well, first of all, the majority of people don't track their food, so they restrict themselves massively and put themselves into a situation where they have initial fat loss and initial weight loss, but then the body starts to compensate by that by giving them loads of hunger cues and making them really tired. And so the eventual kickback from that is that they break, they overeat loads, and they put all the weight back on again. And that's typical of most people who go on a diet. They try and restrict loads of food and they drop them, they get the weight back again. Then you have people who do track, and they're tracking very religiously, and some people can become obsessed with the tracking. In fact, that I've seen people who are looking for how can they fit 2 grams of protein, 4 grams of carbs, and 10 grams of fat into a food for the last meal, when they should be looking at something which is about 30 calories or whatever, 40 calories to eat. So there's people who do become very obsessed with the calories, but they're still going from a restricting calories first approach. Now, while you have to have a calorie deficit, what I'm going to suggest here is slightly opposed to that thinking of calorie deficit first. Let's say you had your food that you're eating through the day, because most of us do eat to a sort of a maintenance or just above maintenance. Some days we overeat slightly, some days we undereat slightly. The body does try and correct this by giving us more hunger signals, or less hunger signals, I should say. But the problem is that we don't self-regulate in terms of mentally. What we do is we just pick at stuff, and that's when we go overeating. So most of us do eat around or just above a maintenance, and we're not massively overeating to the point that we're bursting every single day. Otherwise, people gain weight very quickly and they'd be stuffed very quickly. So my way of thinking is this: is that if we were to, instead of saying, well, let's restrict the calories first, what about if we looked at our output first? What about if we looked at what we're doing in the gym, our steps, our daily movement, our daily activity? What about if we looked at that first and looked to, is there a way that we can increase our activity? Now, I have worked with people who are massively active in their day, like post women, business manager sites, those sorts of things. So building managers on sites who walk around a lot, and they're doing 25,000 plus steps a day. So they don't really need any more steps. They don't really need any more cardio. They are doing a lot of activity. And actually, generally, those people are on the scale where they're under eating because they're doing so much activity in the day, and they're under eating. So that situation is a weird one. We actually have to stop them doing cardio and feed them a little bit more to compensate for that. Most people, though, aren't in that situation. The way we live our lives at the moment, like me, I'm sat here talking to you at a desk in my office, and this is where I work with my clients. I talk to my clients from the desk in the office. And if I'm not careful, I'll sit here all day and have very little movement. Now, I do have my gym that I go to, and I walk around my gym whenever I'm working there. I walk around my gym. When I'm working here at home, which is why I'm filming this video, then I'll be walking around outside in the garden between videos if I can to get my activity up. But most of us don't consider that. Most of us just sit at our desk all day. Most of us have a boss that will have a go at them if they get up and have a 5-minute walk every 5 minutes. So a lot of us who are working from our desks aren't active. And if you've got a driving job and you're driving to sites, I work with clients who are, say, driving to different meetings and then driving again and driving again, spending like half the day in their car with just a little bit of mobility in between those meetings. So our daily activity is low, and that could be increased. And I'm not saying, you're going to go from, say, 4,000 steps a day to 10,000 steps a day, but you can work on getting 500 extra every single day to get that up. And the more you do those small little habits, those things will start increasing and become normal as part of your routine. Then we have the actual activity side of things, the gym activity side of things, the workout activity. Now, I'm just talking from experience here. I own a gym. I've watched thousands of people train over the years. I've obviously coached hundreds, maybe thousands of people in my time as a coach. I will say absolutely, without a shadow of a doubt, that most people don't train as hard as they think they do. Now, I'm going to remove competitive bodybuilders and a few other people who are sort of the exception here. Most people, and these are the people I work with, who are people who are not athletes. They're people who have regular everyday jobs. They love training, they love eating their food, and they just don't train hard enough. And what I've seen with working with these people is as soon as I give them the workouts that are part of my program, and they start doing more volume output, more weights, more focusing on getting more reps and more weights and more sets and etc., their output goes up massively. And we monitor this with what's called a MyZone belt, which is like a chest strap that goes around here. There are other ones on the market. Garmin do one as well, and Polar, of course. And we monitor the output, and we'll see their output on the graph go up massively. And also over time, as they get better at doing those workouts, they get more efficient, so they can do more output, and of course they grow more muscle, so they can do more output. So what we do from an initial point of view is we say, well, let's increase the output. Let's keep the diet as it is for now, because you're eating that anyway, so let's not try and change too many things at once. So we keep the diet the same, although we will talk about, let's be mindful and not have like 3 chocolate bars a day, that sort of thing. Easy wins that we can take away just to maybe give some slight reduction there. But if their diet is generally okay, and obviously I'll have a consultation with them to determine that, if their diet is generally okay, we'll keep it as is, and what we'll do is we'll focus instead on increasing the output. The reason we do this is because if we're trying to increase your output, trying to get you used to training harder, moving more, doing more activity, if we're trying to do that, and at the same time we're saying, well, hold on, let's just bring those calories back in, and we over-restrict on the calories, what we've got then is, from one end, less food going in, so less energy going in, and then at the other end, we're trying to have more energy going out. Now, the body is not going to like that as an immediate change. It's going to potentially fight back against that. And what I've seen with people who do this with their clients is say, right, we're going to start from now, right, 4 hours cardio a day, and then we're going to do 2 hours in the gym working out a day. Okay, that's a slight exaggeration, but you get the gist here. And then we're going to restrict your calories massively and take away your carbs and all that other stuff. Yeah, that person starts to see immediate result, and the coach is like, yeah, look at my client, dropped 3 pounds in a day or whatever. But what you're building up to there is a reaction in the body where it goes, well, hold on, I don't like the fact that I've lost all this weight. And the body doesn't know, remember, the body is not aware that you're just trying to do this until you get shreds and then you'll be happy to not do that anymore. All the body sees is, wait, our weight is going down really quickly, and my stored energy, which is there to store in case you're in a deficit to keep you alive, that's going down really quickly. So what I think I'll do, I'll put the brakes on massively, thank you very much. And then it gives you massive hunger signals, it makes you really tired. So all of a sudden, those workouts you were smashing with the initial motivation, they become a lot harder to do. And the cardio, that becomes a real chore. And what you start to get is this negative feedback by where the body is trying to stop you doing this activity, but your mind, your personality wants to do this activity. So now you're not working with your body, you're working against it, and you're working against your brains. And I'll talk about 3 brain theory in my other videos. And what happens is you get lots of snacking cravings, you get lots of thoughts and dreams about food and all these wonderful things you're gonna eat, and the inevitable happens, you do massively binge. Now you might be still training at that level, but because you've been more tired and you've been more less motivation to get to the gym, those workouts will come down. And I've seen this with clients where the calorie deficit does go too high, and all of a sudden we're seeing the workout output go down, and then the progress photos we're seeing no change happen. As soon as we then think, well, actually, you need a bit more fuel to fuel these workouts, as soon as we put a bit more carbs in, which goes against the thinking of, oh, let's restrict until we get more fat loss. Put a bit more carbs in to fuel that workout. All of a sudden it starts again, the progress starts again, and that person gets leaner and leaner. You can see this in one of my testimonials with Andrew. We actually massively increased his output for the gym, but also increased his food. He was on like 500 grams of carbs a day at the end and still losing body fat. And that's why I adopt this approach with clients. Rather than saying, right, let's do a calorie deficit first and then let's increase your training. Let's try and do it all at once. We do one thing at a time. So first thing we do, okay, your food, you're obviously eating, you're happy with your food. We maybe make some really obvious restrictions there. So we'll take away things like obvious treats like chocolate bars, chocolate biscuits, everything else. Reduce those down as much as you can. But what we're going to be, and you're going to be more mindful anyway. If you're trying to transform your body, you're going to be more mindful of, or maybe I don't need that chocolate bar, maybe I don't need that pack of crisps. So you're going to be more mindful of self-restriction there anyway. That's good for the start. The first thing we do is focus on getting their volume up, their output up, their training up. So they start enjoying the process. The major thing about diets and fat loss programs and all these other things is that people hate them because they eat less food. So why don't we address that right at the beginning and say, well, okay, I know you don't like eating less food, so what's the alternative? We've got to create a calorie deficit somewhere. How about we do better, more productive workouts? And most people will be down with that. Most people say, yeah, do you know what? I can smash some more steps. I can do a bit of cardio in the gym. I can do more sets and more weights and more reps and more volume in the gym because I like weight training and I like exercising. I like being active. I like doing all those things. So yeah, I'm down with that. I'm not down with restricting my food. No one really likes taking their food away, do they? So that's the process I adopt. Now, okay, yeah, not everybody's going to be the same. Some people do require more calorific intervention than other people, but it's a case-by-case basis. What I'm saying is, and this is where I work in my programs, my group programs, as well as my one-to-one, the first thing we do is look at increasing their output. If we can get the output up, they're happy with the process, they're happy they're seeing changes in the mirror, because you will see changes very quickly once you start ramping up your weight training and getting results from that. Then mentally, you're like, well, actually, I want to make that process even better. So now I'm okay with dropping a bit more food out. But we have to monitor that, because as your activity goes up, you're creating more of a calorie, more calorie out. You need to be monitoring the calories in, because sometimes, and I've said this is a unique case-by-case experience, sometimes we need to increase the carbs so that you'll get more activity for those workouts. So how can you apply this to you? How can you apply this to your own training? Well, firstly, have a look at your own weight training. Is it boring? Did you go and do the same thing every day? So Monday is chest day, Tuesday is back day, blah, 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 blah. Leg day sometimes might happen, whatever, and then Saturdays is arms. If that's all you're doing all the time, you need to have a rethink of that. You need to have a look at it and go, well, okay, how can I make that a bit more interesting? If you want some quick tips on that, you can have a look at my Vitamin T workout program, which is free for you to download. Just go to my website, bknutrition.com/Vitamin T. 5 I think 8 workouts in there actually that you'll get, which will give you ideas, and they're taken from my own coaching program, so they're stuff I actually use with clients, and that will show you the level of volume, the level of activity you need to be at in order to make progress. So if your workouts need a bit of a kick, go and download that. That'll start off. If you're doing that for a week or so, you should start to see some changes happen quite quickly, because when you start training more with weights, you generally tend to get a little bit more water come off as the water gets used by the muscles and everything else. So you look a bit tighter almost straight away. Then if you're looking at restricting your calories, and I would only start to restrict your calories when you see the progress from the weight training, the new addition, that starts to falter. You need to give it about 2 weeks of doing more volume, more activity, and focusing on like, oh, how can I do, every situation that comes up, how can I do more activity here? If I'm sat at my desk, how can I do more activity there? I can get up every half hour and go for a 5-minute walk around the block, or I can walk around in my garden, or I can, you know, if you're working in an office or whatever, you know, people go out for fag breaks, don't they? Well, you can go out, pretend fag break, and actually have a cigarette and come back, whatever. It's going to be unique to your situation. But what I would suggest is, if you're sat at a desk most of the day, employ something called the Pomodoro technique, which is it's 25 minutes, but it doesn't have to be 25 minutes. But it's something I do when I'm working on videos and content like this. I'll set my alarm on my phone for, say, 25 minutes, half an hour. As soon as that goes off, that's my signal to get up. Whatever I'm doing, get up, go for 5 minutes, walk around the garden or walk around my gym or whatever, come back, start again. There are really good reasons why you do this. First of all, it focuses your work into 25 concentrated minutes. You're not just sat at your desk twiddling on your phone and checking out Instagram all the time. You actually think, well, I've got 25 minutes to get this stuff done. I'll get this done, then I'm going for my little break. You actually become more productive as a result of it. And the second thing is that if you are thinking about, right, I'm going to go allocate jobs for this 25 minutes, this 25 minutes, this 25 minutes. In between each job, you're doing a little bit of exercise, so it becomes part of your normal routine where you're exercising as well as working. And you know, I'm coming from a boss perspective, because obviously I have employees. I would appreciate that employees are more productive and doing stuff rather than sat down doing nothing and whiling away the time scrolling on Facebook all day. So I encourage all my staff, if they can, to be more active. And if you're worried about what your boss is going to say, if you can show them you're being more productive at work, or you're producing more work if you're self-employed, and you can see that, that's going to spur you on to do more there. Once you've done that, once you've increased your activity and you've increased your workouts, then that's the only time I would start looking at changing the calories. And if you are going to do that, there's a calorie calculator on my website, bknutrition.com/calculator. If you go there and you put your vital statistics in, like age, date of birth, male or female, activity level, that sort of thing, it will give you an idea about how many calories you should be eating for fat loss. Now, bear in mind that will give a 500 calorie deficit, which for most people is around about okay. It doesn't mean you have to go to that deficit, and personally I would probably go to, say, 300 deficit to start with and see how you are with that, because it might be that 300 deficit is enough to get you over the line and keep going and making progress. I've got loads of clients who are only on 200 and 300 calorie deficits, and they're making incredible progress. We don't have to increase it to 500. You know, although 500 is about the benchmark where most people are, why go to that straight away? You know, you don't need to go to that straight away. Increase it gradually over time so that you're not restricting more than you need to. So those are the two tools that you will need. And if you go and download those, they're both free. You can use them on my website and get the workouts on my app. Try those out first, but workouts first, and then look to your calorie deficit. And don't believe all these people say, oh, you should be eating this, you should be eating this. Do your own thing, you know. Think about, like, yeah, this is my life, this is what I'm doing. Don't let people influence that. Obviously, I'm potentially influencing you here by talking about this, but it's advice, you don't have to take it. I'm just saying this is what I do with my clients, this is what works well. Might not work well for you, but worth giving it a try. Okay, hope that was helpful. Hope it gave you some insight. And apologies for my voice today. I am suffering from some sort of cold or something, and it's put my voice out a little bit. But in the spirit of being consistent and producing videos every week, I've sat down here today and done a video. So sorry if the sound is a little bit rubbish, and sorry if my voice is a little bit rubbish. It should hopefully be back to normal for the next video. Thanks for your time, as ever. Appreciate your time, and I hope you get something productive from those tips I just gave you. Let me know if you did in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe and like and all that other stuff, because that helps me get massive followers on Instagram and YouTube and all the other places, which is really important, of course. Thanks very much. Speak to you next time.